Hi folks, how are you doing? In the fourth round of the Sinquefield Cup, we saw only one decisive result, but this game was really a very interesting one. I think it is very instructive, as you're gonna see in just a couple of minutes. It's a game which will be remembered for a long time because it's a great positional battle with some astonishing ideas, very instructive, and it was very important because it was played between Fabiano Caruana as white and Levon Aronian as black. Now they're kind of fighting for the number two place in the world rankings right now, and also it was very important for the tournament standings right now. Remember, we're seeing the world's strongest tournament according to the average ELO rating of the players. So definitely a game you don't want to miss. This Caruana against Aronian on the fourth round. Let's see what happened. We saw Ruy Lopez as the opening. Both players, of course, huge experts on this. Caruana plays the Spanish with both colors, and Aronian has been using this as basically his only weapon against 1e4, against the world's finest players with great success, in fact, for more than a decade or maybe even more. So you can argue this was going to be a great theoretical battle if they wanted to. We saw some normal moves. Bishop a4, knight to f6, Caruana castled. And after bishop e7, Fabiano goes for the slow approach, the quiet continuation with d3. And in fact now he's threatening to take the knight, remove the defender, and take the pawn on e5, I think, because now e4 is defended, queen to d4 wouldn't be that effective. So that's why I guess Levon Aronian plays b5, protecting his his pawn on e5. Now he castles, and Caruana goes with knight to c3. He's not going to go anymore for the c3 d4 typical plan. This is another way of playing the Ruy Lopez. d6, and well, there are a number of moves here which are normal: h3, bishop e3, whatever. But a3 was played here by Fabiano. This move seems to be trendy lately between top players, it seems, and well, it's giving this bishop a room on a2. And as later Caruana admitted, he had prepared a line here with this move with his trainer Chuchelov, which is already being recognized as one of the biggest factors in Caruana's success lately. So knight a5, bishop goes back to a2, and bishop to e6, forcing the exchange of this bishop. Now this year's Tata tournament, for instance, in January or so, saw Levon Aronian beating Dominguez from the black side of this position in a very nice game. Caruana took on e6, f takes, and later in the post-game interview he said they had prepared this position, the line we're gonna see, based on the game Dominguez versus Karyakin 2013. That was a rapid game, I think, which black won, Karyakin won. Now Caruana plays b4, knight c6, bishop to d2. I mean, of course, it doesn't seem that much for white. In fact, one might argue that black has already equalized out from the opening. White doesn't have that many threats right now, that many scary development or anything, or any serious advantage. But Caruana has a long-term plan, a positional interesting continuation, which we're going to see very soon. d5, very natural looking move. Rook to e1. It wouldn't be convenient for black, I guess, here to take on e4, because after knight takes, these doubled pawns may not be that healthy. The rook is already on the e file, so this must be better for white. So instead, queen d6, cementing his position, his central pawns. Levon Aronian is playing solid. And this is the move that Caruana had prepared here. Knight to a2. A little bit mysterious looking move by the knight, but in a couple of moves we're gonna see its idea. It's a nice positional idea. Knight to d7. Some maneuvering still. Queen to e2. d4, black grabs space in the center. Now rook e to be one interesting concept to stop, to discourage black from playing a5, which otherwise could be really natural looking, because now after takes b4, b5 would be under attack with the rook, so a5 isn't that tempting anymore for black. Aronian goes knight to b6, and the knight is going to go to c1 now. A beautiful, interesting journey this knight is taking here. Knight to a4, and now knight to b3. And just look at the job this knight has done from b1 to c3, a2, c1, now to b3. Trying to improve this knight really, and kind of force black into passive squares, which funnily enough Caruana is going to succeed in doing very soon. This is leading to a complex positional battle. It's all about harmony here. Rook f7 was Levon's choice here. Now the rook isn't doing that much of a job on the b file, so it goes to c1. Rook to d8, and we're reaching an interesting and crucial point. Knight g5 was played here by Fabiano, attacking the rook, and probably an inaccuracy here by Levon playing rook to f6, because probably he should have taken on g5. Bishop takes, and after, for instance, rook df8, controlling completely the f file with some threats already to take on f2, the knight could go to c3. Seems a pretty playable position, not bad at all for black. I mean, it's not that obvious that rook f6 is bad, of course, but as Caruana himself told after the game, allowing him to get this queen h5 move, threatening checkmate, was the beginning of the end for black. Now black is going to start to fall into a very passive position, and we're going to see a really positional masterpiece from now on by Fabiano Caruana. Aronian played pawn to h6. Another option was to put the rook on h6 for black. This was another valid option, I think. But h6, now the knight goes back to f3. Okay, it may not seem that much. I mean, nothing bad it's happening to black's position so far, but Levon's main problem is going to be the lack of space and good squares for his pieces, and black will not have enough coordination or harmony. This is going to be all which is going to be important in this game. It is going to be decided by these factors. Rook to f8, rook to f1, rook to f7, rook e1. Now white is slowly bringing back his pieces to where it's going to matter, to the king side, while black is going to find himself in difficulties to organize well his pieces. This is the clue of this game, the key factor. Bishop f8, Aronian reinforces his king side as white is slowly but steadily accumulating, as you can see, pieces here on the king side to launch an attack, while black really doesn't have any counterplay, any serious chance of counterplay. That's another very interesting edge for white here. Black doesn't have serious counter chances here. h3, now the idea behind this move could be knight to h2 to g4, threatening f6, also having an eye here against the h6 pawn. Levon played g6, harassing this queen to h4. Now he's hurrying back with his pieces. Queen to e7, queen to g3. Suddenly, all of a sudden, black king side seems very loose. Bishop to g7 was played here. And here another key factor, key moment in the game. Very interesting move here by Caruana. He had this, as I mentioned, knight h2, knight g4 idea with quite a solid edge, long-term advantage for him, attacking f6, attacking h6. But instead he goes for a more fun continuation. He sacrifices material here with very good compensations. We're gonna see very nice moments in the game. Knight to a5. And it's very funny, I think, because it's all coming back to the basics of the Ruy Lopez. I mean, what's the idea of the Ruy Lopez? You go knight f3 to attack the e5 pawn, and the knight c6 goes there to protect it now. Well, we're going to deviate this rook, this knight, the defender of the e5 pawn, because we're going to attack it once again. It's very interesting that this pawn is finally a weakness for black, even though in the second move he played knight c6 to protect it. So knight takes a5, and of course Caruana's idea is not to recapture the knight, but to take the pawn e5 with the knight. Now black has his rook, and still the knight on a5 under attack. He saves the knight, goes to b7, seems to be correct. And now Caruana doesn't take the rook on f7. This is not the idea, because he doesn't have, it seems, that much compensation here. Couple of knights against his rook and pawn, but he keeps the pressure and the active knight, taking the pawn on g6, now attacking the queen, taking 2 pawns for the piece. And once again, all the compensation Caruana has here is positional. I mean, his pieces are harmonious, are coordinated, while black's pieces are scattered around, not really doing that much of a job. Especially these knights here are not looking good at all. After thinking for a while, Aronian played queen to d8. His position is arguably very difficult to play here. Pawn to e5. Now these rooks are finding difficulties to find squares. Rook to f5 and f4, and this is all what happens. The knight h4 is a threat, kind of forcing black to give up an exchange here. And look at white pieces. I mean, they are all here harmoniously situated on the king side to attack black. Meanwhile, black pieces are kind of all around the board. These knights here not doing much but watching the action from far away. The queen here, the rook here is lacking space. So great positional game here by Caruana, really instructive, I think. Aronian tries to get something going. He plays c5 to maybe get some counterplay or something, but now easy moves by white. Knight to h4. At least rook h5 here. I guess this was the idea of putting the queen on d8. Rook h5 is now coming with a tempo. He's attacking the knight on h4, so knight f3 retreating, and now there is the threat of going in with the queen to g6, attacking the rook and basically trapping it, because if it's allowed, then say black makes a stupid move, something like a5. Well, I guess after queen g6, rook to f5, or if the other rook comes here, it's even worse, I guess. Now g4, and this must be already game over. So knight f3, already difficult to suggest good moves here for black, but Levon admitted that king h7, what he played here, was not a very good move at all, because now he will have to retreat his king, as we will see. Now queen g4 attacking the rook, rook h to f5, and knight h4, and white keeps harassing these poor rooks around these couple of squares they have just to move. And also white is attacking the g6 square, threatening to go there with a very dangerous check. So here is where we see that king h7 wasn't a very fortunate move. Now the king must go back, and white takes the exchange on f5, rook takes. So white has a rook and 2 pawns here for black's pair of knights. But the great difference once again is that the knights are very far from the action here on the king side, but white rooks and pawns are going to have all the initiative here, are going to be dictating the course of the game. That's the big advantage that white has here. Queen to g6. These pawns are going to start to roll. Queen to e7 was played here. Both players, especially Aronian, was in a huge time trouble here before the time control. g4, rook f8, and f5, a scary looking position for black. White is already attacking also h6 pawn with the queen and the bishop. These pawns are going to start to roll, and once again these knights are just spectators of the battle from far away, the queen side there. Aronian tries something with some relieving moves, try to exchange queens here. Well, he succeeds, so, but this is not that easy to play either for black. I mean, it is some relief, but White's attack is continuing. f6, strong passed pawn already there. Bishop f8, f7, rook e7, and now not that difficult to find this rook f6 move. White is taking, give me more pawns. e6 now is under attack, although it's protected. h6 is under attack. So White is improving his pieces move by move. Now the knights try to go back to defend the position, but it's too late, unfortunately, for Aronian. Bishop takes h6 here was played. Knight to d7, and White's position is so strong that he can afford to give back some material, still having a very good position. So he invites Black to take on f6, playing rook ef1. It would be leading to something like this if Aronian was to take on f6. The intermediate move was to take on f8. The bishop now was unprotected on f8. Now if rook takes the pawn, rook takes f6, protecting the f8 bishop. And even if the rooks are exchanged, these couple of passed pawns, the g and h passed pawns, are going to absolutely decide the game in White's favor. So Levon didn't go for this. He takes on b4, Caruana takes back, and he exchanged the bishops on h6, check, king g7, and after the move number 50, rook h5, Levon Aronian resigned finally, giving Caruana a really alien performance of 4 out of 4 in the strongest tournament in history. I mean, who could have imagined that? If it's very difficult in the elite tournaments to start with something like 4 out of 4, who could have imagined 4 out of 4 in the strongest tournament in the history? Well, let's see what was the obvious line here. I mean, Black is completely toasted here, but the obvious move, taking on f7, was absolutely no playable at all. The pawn was untouchable for some tactical reasons. Rook h7, and now this rook on f7 is going to be lost. White recovers material with interest. Rook takes f7, check, taking the other knight, and of course this is all she wrote. So spectacular positional game by Fabiano Caruana, great home preparation, and a really fabulous battle here on the 4th round of the Sinquefield